Night. Kind of. All right, let's talk Vikings. J.J. McCarthy taking over the reins as the starting quarterback with a decent amount of pressure, but also a really good supporting cast and excellent coaching staff to see him out there at training camp. As part of SportsCenter's 50 States in 50 Days, Elle Duncan was in Minnesota yesterday, caught up with J.J. McCarthy.
Have you at any point had your, oh my goodness, I am the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings moment yet?
No, I really haven't. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, it just matters about, taking that responsibility, and, the coaches and the players put so much trust in me, and just making sure I do my job on a daily basis to, help this team succeed in any way I can.
All right, you know this by now. There's a lot of cliches that are thrown around when it comes to football. One of them is building trust with your receivers. But, JJ, what does that actually look like, apart from just learning the kind of routes that they want?
It's building the trust on the field, but most importantly off the field. Developing those relationships, those intimate relationships that, lead to success on the field. And, just getting with them after practice, playing games with them, and, just sitting with them at lunch. All the little things where you could just bond and grow off the field.
Certainly sounds promising early this offseason for J.J. Minnesota, but there are still some questions surrounding his top two wideouts. So let's start there. Adam, what's the latest on Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison?
Well, Laura, there's no question that these are two of the most talented wide receivers in the league and might just be the best tandem in the league. But there are questions about both. Justin Jefferson has some hamstring tightness and some irritation, and the Vikings want to be smart. It wouldn't be a surprise if we didn't see him in the preseason. They're going to be careful. They don't think it's a problem for the opener, but he's had some hamstring issues before. And Jordan Addison is facing potential discipline from the National Football League for a DUI that occurred last year. So we don't know if and when that discipline will occur, but it's very possible that he could be facing a baseline suspension of 3 games as mandated by the collective bargaining agreement. Again, we think Jefferson will be perfectly okay by the time the regular season rolls around. There's a question as to when Addison could be facing potential discipline, but there are 2 questions that hang over the great Vikings wide receiver tandem.
Yeah, RC, can this Vikings defense carry the load early on to help JJ in the offense if they do struggle a little bit?
Obviously, this Vikings defense is extremely explosive. They just re-signed or extended Josh Metellus, who is kind of that Swiss Army knife that they use all over what Brian Flores likes to do with that simulated blitz, 2 safety high shell scheme. But you watched as the year went on last year, there were some teams that started to pick up on the nuances of what Brian Flores did from a disguise to attack and execution standpoint. And so there are going to have to be some new wrinkles. You're going to have to find different ways to get pressure on the quarterback and find ways to create turnovers as well. Early on in the season, when this defense was playing at a high clip, they were turning the football over and they were getting hits on the quarterback. How do they find a way to do that this year when there's, again, more film on the way that they will start plays and then what they will execute post-snap? J.J. McCarthy has an opportunity to walk into a situation that's ready-made for a young player to play well. And we could also find that ACL tear or that tear of the meniscus last year was something that allowed him to watch from the sideline, see what Sam Darnold did well in Kevin O'Connell's offense, and execute extremely early where Brian Flores' defense won't need to carry this team.
Yeah, and RC, when I was with Rex Ryan with the Jets and we had Mark Sanchez, obviously he was a rookie. We know JJ's a second-year player, but it was all about what you talked about, a great defense, Brian Flores, and then we were able to run the ball. And I think early on, my suspicion is Kevin O'Connell, who ironically was on injured reserve on those Jet teams, is going to approach it in a very similar way. From a standpoint, if you look last year, they were 5th in the league in yards per attempt. They were able to get the ball down the field, as Adam alluded to 2 great receivers. I would think early on they'll lean on the run game, Aaron Jones, that really good offensive line, and then build that downfield passing game gradually. So, again, J.J. McCarthy, not a rookie, but basically like a redshirt freshman. Give him time to get comfortable, much the way we did with Sanchez, and let that talent build and confidence build during the season.
We spent an awful lot of time this offseason talking about what the Bears have done to fortify the interior part of their offensive line. The Minnesota Vikings have done the very same thing.
Yeah.
They signed Ryan Kelly and Will Freeze away from Indianapolis. They drafted Donovan Jackson. They've shored up the interior part of their offensive line, and they're going to count on running the football with Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones and protecting J.J. McCarthy to help this offense go. But those are some big changes up front. It's not just the Bears who have put a lot of resources into their offensive line. The Vikings have as well, just hasn't generated quite as much conversation.
That's a good point. You mentioned the Bears. That's actually who the Vikings opened the season with. They got the Falcons, Bengals, Steelers, and Browns in those first few weeks. That's how J.J. McCarthy gets his official starting job started off. All right, so let's stay in this division, right? This is one of the most competitive divisions in the NFL. Minnesota third among the NFC North teams in terms of their chance to win the division and make the playoffs. ESPN Analytics has the Packers just ahead of the Vikings. That's interesting, with a 49% chance for them to make the playoffs. All right, Jeremy Fowler's been bopping around everywhere. He joins us now from Green Bay as his camp tour continues. Jeremy, what did you see at Packers camp today?
The possibility.
Terry McLaurin also doesn't have a deal, not close to a deal. The two sides disagree on what would be fair value for Terry McLaurin. So he's back in the organization, but he's still not practicing. He's on the physically unable to perform list. He is entering the last year of his contract in an exploding wide receiver market. And so we now have Washington and McLaurin, Dallas and Parsons, Cincinnati and Hendrickson today. And these things can change fast, Laura, but today nobody is close to a deal.
Ah, man, it's just fascinating. There's a lot of here, too, of like, I'm just here so I don't get fined, right? McLaurin, by the way, had instant chemistry with Jaden Daniels during his rookie season, and he had significantly better numbers throwing to his top target than all other wide receivers combined. Look at these numbers. Daniels had 12 touchdowns to McLaurin, the third most for any combo in the league in 2024, behind Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those connections are well documented. Here's Jaden Daniels today on his new weapon, Deebo Samuel.
I'll just say for Deebo, I mean, the guy's played a lot of football, and he's very understanding of different coverages and routes, and, the guy is a pro, so, and he works hard. So for me, it's like I just go out there and try to communicate this is what I want versus this look versus this coverage, and he go out there and he puts in the work and he understands it.
Now, Jaden's also talked about McLaurin and said they've been in communication and all these things, if you're wondering. But, RC, if Jaden is without McLaurin at all to start this season, how does this Cliff Kingsbury offense look with Deebo now part of it?
Listen, Deebo Samuel doesn't do what Terry McLaurin does. Deebo Samuel was going to be the perfect complement to what Terry McLaurin does. Deebo Samuel can be used as a Swiss Army knife, play in the slot, play the X receiver, play the Z, get in motion and give you some of the short routes with the yards after the catch. We know how difficult he is to get on the ground with the football in his hands, and it's going to be on Cliff Kingsbury to find ways to get Deebo the football where he can make plays, have one-on-one opportunities in the open field. But make no mistake about it, Deebo Samuel is not a replacement for Terry McLaurin. These players couldn't be more polar opposites in the way that you need to utilize them offensively. Having Terry McLaurin in this building is paramount for Jaden Daniels and paramount for this offense to be able to create explosive plays. And then Deebo Samuel becomes the recipient of some of those two eye coverages, those coverages that are soft, because now he can catch the ball, work one-on-one with safeties and linebackers, and show just how good he was in San Francisco in that Kyle Shanahan offense.
Yeah, RC, to me, the other problem that Deebo Samuel really solves is when you go back a year ago, maybe the only issue you had with Jaden Daniels was he was sacked 47 times, which was the sixth most amount. So they went out, they traded for Laramie Tunsil, drafted Josh Connolly. When healthy, Sam Cosby presumably will go inside. But Deebo Samuel, as you mentioned, he's so hard to tackle. He averages 9 yards after catch in terms of production. So to me, those long handoffs get the ball out of Jaden Daniels' hands. So I think Deebo Samuel kills two birds with one stone relative to helping keep Jaden Daniels healthy and getting sacked less.
But it still comes back to Terry McLaurin, right? They're going to need him in this offense. He was the deep ball threat. He was the go-to guy. He was the guy that made play after play last season. The amount of tough catches that he made rivaled any receiver in the National Football League. He was the player that Jaden Daniels counted on, really a security blanket like Zach Ertz. And again, the season here is just over 5 weeks away from getting here, and the two sides have not made a lot of progress towards a new deal. And you wonder what it would take, because who would think that Terry McLaurin wouldn't have a deal done on July 31st? We know what he means to Washington. They know what he means to their offense. And yet here they are, still struggling to find common ground and a compromise that would enable this deal to get done.
They just showed you that list of who is in this wide receiver room. And if you don't have Terry McLaurin, you don't have a top-end deep ball guy. You don't have a person that you feel is going to go outside and win in one-on-ones. And though Terry McLaurin may not be all of these other people we've compared him to when it comes to contract negotiations, he is their number one. He is their most important wide receiver, their most explosive player on the outside. And they have to find a way to have him in camp and have him on the football field game one this year for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, it's unthinkable to me that he wouldn't be having this figured out by the start of the season, but I will point this out. Only one of the Commanders' first 4 games is against a team that made the playoffs last season, week 2 at the Packers. So maybe if he's not out there early on, they can still get by, but he's obviously incredibly important to this offense. We're just getting started on NFL Live. Tonight.
Skull Nation, it's Victor here with Report Vikings. And listen, this might be one of the most exciting trade rumors we've had in a long time. You ready for this? Terry McLaurin, yes, Scary Terry himself, could be on his way to join the Minnesota Vikings. That's right, I'm talking about a potential move that would shake the NFC to its core. So here's what's happening. Terry McLaurin has officially requested a trade out of Washington. He's frustrated, he's disappointed, and he's done waiting on a new deal from the Commanders. He already skipped minicamp, and now reports say he's taking it a step further. He doesn't want to step on the field unless something changes. This is a guy who's been the heart of that offense for years, and now he's basically saying, I'm out. Let's be real, he deserves to be paid. McLaurin's making around $23.2 million per year, and that doesn't even crack the top 15 wide receivers anymore. That's crazy for a dude who's consistently putting up 1,000-yard seasons with a revolving door of quarterbacks. And now let's talk about where things get really interesting. Minnesota. Sources around the league are saying the Vikings are actively engaged in discussions to land McLaurin. Why? Simple. We want to put our rookie QB JJ McCarthy in the best possible position to succeed. Think about it. You pair Terry McLaurin with Justin Jefferson, that's a nightmare for any defense. We're talking about 2 elite route runners, both with speed, both with insane hands, both with the ability to absolutely cook man coverage. You double Jefferson? McLaurin eats you alive. You play it straight, pick your poison. McLaurin had 1,002 yards last season with Sam Howell and a broken Commanders offense. Imagine what he could do in Kevin O'Connell's system, where route combinations are king and timing is everything. Let's not forget, Terry is one of the best contested catch guys in the league. He was top 10 in contested catch rate last year, and that's exactly what you need when you're bringing along a rookie QB. Give McCarthy reliable targets and let him grow with confidence. This isn't just about flash. This is about building a complete, dangerous, balanced offense that can keep up with anybody in the NFC. This move would send a message. The Vikings aren't rebuilding, we're reloading. We're not waiting around hoping things fall into place. We're making aggressive moves to stay competitive right now. Addison is still a stud. Hawkinson will be back healthy, and with McLaurin in the mix, we might just have the most complete wide receiver core in the league. That's the kind of firepower that makes a rookie QB's life a whole lot easier. Alright, Vikings fans, I gotta hear from you. Would you trade for Terry McLaurin? What would you be willing to give up? A second rounder? Maybe a future first? Or would you stand pat with what we've got? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Give me your trade packages, your takes, your bold predictions. I want to hear it all. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with other Vikings fans. Let's make some noise. This is Victor, your purple and gold voice of reason and chaos, reminding you that in this league, you either play it safe or you play to win. Let's go get McLaurin. Let's build something scary. Skull Vikings, let's ride.